Swoosh! A familiar yet unfamiliar figure took a step out of space. Divine Emperor Onyx was immediately agitated. His entire body was trembling. His dignified air as a divine emperor had dissipated. Lin Shang was so excited that he could not speak. Despite being an esteemed grand emperor, tears flowed down his face as he muttered in a low voice, "Father, is it really you? You're back. Shang'er, I'm back." Lin Feng took a step forward and came beside Lin Shang. This was his son, Lin Shang. He was now a famous grand emperor in the universe, and the strongest person in the supremacy family, Lin Feng's direct bloodline. Lin Feng actually did not put much effort into raising his son. They had only met very few times. However, this did not stop Lin Shang from worshipping Lin Feng, and had always aspired to catch up to Lin Feng. However, no matter how hard Lin Shang tried to catch up, he was far inferior to Lin Feng. "Father, you're finally back. I was incompetent and failed to protect the home planet." Lin Shang was a dignified grand emperor, but at this moment, he was crying like a child, his face covered in tears. He felt very guilty. His home planet had been destroyed. This was the responsibility Lin Feng had entrusted to him, but he had failed to protect his home planet. He was very ashamed. "No, you've done well enough. Remember, you're the patriarch of the supremacy family. You're my son." Lin Feng's tone was very stern, but his gaze was very calm and loving. Fortunately, Lin Shang was still alive. This was already a blessing amidst misfortunes. Lin Feng had already learned about Lin Shang's behavior through Rewind. He was very satisfied. This was also the best Lin Shang could do. Lin Shang never backed down. He was even willing to sacrifice his life for justice. He had not disgraced the supremacy family or Lin Feng. Crack. The law chains on Lin Shang's body broke with a bang. Lin Shang's imprisoned power instantly recovered to its original state. Moreover, Lin Feng's return gave Lin Shang hope, and he had regained his confidence. Hence, his entire being was filled with hope. "Shang'er, which divine emperors betrayed the alliance and the universe? Point them out one by one," Lin Feng said indifferently. Beside him, Divine Emperor Onyx gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lin Feng, although you're a supremacy, you only relied on the power of the universe to defeat a chaotic life form back then. But do you know the true strength of those chaotic life forms? Their strength is far beyond your imagination. The era when you dominated the universe is gone. Times have changed. Lin Feng, you should forsake your arrogance as a supremacy and follow me to apologize to the great chaotic life forms. Perhaps then, they can still spare you." "Oh? What gave you the guts to talk to me like this? Is it that chaotic artifact you are toting?" Lin Feng's expression was calm, and there was even some pity in his gaze. That was the attitude of the strong toward the weak. It was as if he was looking at an ant. Divine Emperor Onyx did not like that look. Those chaotic life forms had looked at him like this. Back when Lin Feng was a universe supremacy, he had looked at him like this too. Now, Lin Feng was still looking at him like this. Divine Emperor Onyx suddenly felt an unreasonable burst of anger. "Ha ha ha! Lin Feng, you're still pretending to be calm? This is no longer your era. Look at what's outside. Divine Emperors, all of them are Divine Emperors. A total of 48 Divine Emperors have formed an array to seal you. Moreover, we've informed the great chaotic life forms. Once they arrive, you're dead. You and your supremacy family are all dead." Grand Emperor Onyx threw his head back and laughed aloud. At the same time, the prison shattered, and the entire cosmos appeared in front of Lin Feng. This prison was clearly a huge array. The moment Lin Feng stepped inside, he had actually stepped into the center of the array. Divine Emperor Onyx stood in the void. There were indeed dozens of Divine Emperors around, all of them looking on menacingly. "Supremacy, it's Supremacy Lin Feng. He's back. He's really back. Why did he have to come back now? Supremacy, you can't blame us. We're Divine Emperors, but facing those chaotic life forms, we have no choice. Those who resisted were all killed. We just don't want to die. Supremacy, times are different now. Things are no longer the same as before. These chaotic lifeforms personally set up this array, and they gave us chaotic artifacts. Once dozens of divine emperors with chaotic artifacts activate the array, even chaotic lifeforms will be killed for certain. It's better to surrender. Those chaotic lifeforms seem to be very interested in transcendence. As long as you surrender, you should be able to save your own life. These divine emperors all looked at Lin Feng with complicated expressions. How awe-inspiring was Lin Feng back then? He was the universe supremacy, and innumerable divine emperors had come to pay their respects to him. He had dominated an era, was the strongest supremacy in all eras, and was even the only transcendent. But now the world had long changed enormously. Even the times had changed. The universe supremacy, who could dominate an era back then, was completely powerless before chaotic lifeforms. Moreover, after these dozens of divine emperors joined the chaotic lifeforms, they were also bestowed with precious treasures. They even set up an array, and were actually waiting for someone to come to Lin Shang's rescue. Lin Shang was bait to begin with. "Father, I am the one who landed you in danger." Seeing the scene in front of him, Lin Shang naturally understood. He was the bait. No matter who came to save him, they would be trapped in the array and put in a disadvantageous position. With so many divine emperors, who were also holding chaotic artifacts bestowed by those chaotic lifeforms, even a supremacy like Lin Feng would probably find it difficult to resist. Lin Shang began to worry. In his memory, Lin Feng was constantly creating miracles, as if he was omnipotent, unparalleled, and invincible. However, times had changed. In the vaster chaos, how powerful could Lin Feng be? Moreover, these divine emperors had also informed those chaotic lifeforms. Lin Shang knew those chaotic lifeforms well. That was true invincibility, and they were truly despairing. Facing more than 40 divine emperors, and with the surrounding void completely sealed by the array and filled with killing intent, this place had completely become a slaughterhouse. However, Lin Feng did not move. His expression was still very calm, but a cold smile appeared on his lips. "That's right, times have changed. However, do you think you can kill me just with a few mere divine emperors who are not even half-chaotic lifeforms, an array that's riddled with flaws, and some scrap metal you call chaotic artifacts? Ignorant fools!" Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back, as if he did not take Divine Emperor Onyx and the others seriously at all. Divine Emperor Onyx's face was dark. Then he shouted, "You're still trying to talk big before your death. Even if you've returned from the chaos, you'll die for certain today. Earth Prime Killing Array, activate." As Divine Emperor Onyx shouted, the more than 40 Divine Emperors immediately activated the array. Killing intent filled the air, forming a terrifying aura. There were also beams of light flickering with astonishing power. They were all certain chaotic artifacts that were combined with arrays to form killing moves. The power was astonishing. For a moment, they erupted with a terrifying might. Ordinary chaotic lifeforms were really not their match. Fight! Lin Shang also manifested a huge combat body. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura, and he was already determined to die. However, Lin Feng shook his head. Then he gently extended a fair palm. Boom! His white jade-like palm instantly turned fiery red. A fist-sized sphere of scarlet flames transformed into a stream of light and instantly collided violently with the chaotic artifacts of dozens of divine emperors. There was a sizzling sound. Before the dozens of beams of light which were all chaotic artifacts, the scarlet flames transformed into a monstrous inferno at once. They enveloped those chaotic artifacts like a sea of fire. Crack, crack. One chaotic artifact after another was burned to ashes, and cracks appeared one after another. Their light dimmed, and in the blink of an eye, they all collapsed. How is this possible? These are chaotic artifacts bestowed to us by the great chaotic lifeforms. They're incomparably durable. How can they be burned to ashes by mere fire? Impossible, absolutely impossible. There's also an array. How can an array formed by more than 40 of us not even withstand a burst of flames? Seeing the terrifying flames instantly envelop the array and burn those chaotic artifacts to ashes, all the divine emperors were dumbfounded. as if in disbelief. Times were different now. They had relied on joining those chaotic lifeforms and helping them to rule the entire universe to be bestowed the chaotic artifacts. They knew the power of these chaotic artifacts very well. A chaotic artifact could enhance their strength by 10 or 100 times. If dozens of chaotic artifacts were combined, along with the Earth Prime killing array, it was said that they could kill true chaotic lifeforms. This was the true ace in the hole, the trump card left behind by those chaotic lifeforms. Since they wanted Lin Shang to be the bait, they naturally had to leave methods to protect the bait. However, even with so many methods now, they could not withstand a sphere of flames casually deployed by Lin Feng. It was just a sphere of flames, but this sphere of flames was burning fiercely now, turning into a sea of fire. The terrifying flames burned wildly, burning the chaotic artifacts of dozens of divine emperors to ashes. The divine emperors even deployed their combat bodies one after another. The terrifying combat body stretched across the cosmos. Lin Feng appeared as insignificant as a speck of dust. Yet this speck of dust struck terror into these powerful divine emperors. After so many years, you still have not improved. Lin Feng shook his head. Did these divine emperors think that they could trap him just by relying on a few chaotic artifacts and a certain chaotic array? That was wishful thinking. They were too naive. Forget about a mere chaotic array. Even the chaotic divine array could not do anything to Lin Feng. Even without manifesting his hallowed body, Lin Feng could easily kill these divine emperors. He had only used one of his many chaotic spirit flames, but he could easily break this Earth Prime killing array and burn dozens of divine emperors to ashes. No, you can't kill me. Supremacy, spare me. I know where the rest of the Supremacy family is. The chaotic lifeforms have already given the order to capture everyone in the Supremacy family. Those who resist will be killed without mercy. Ha! Lin Feng reached out and grabbed Divine Emperor Onyx directly. Is what you said true? Divine Emperor Onyx was truly afraid now. The Supremacy was still worthy of his title as the Supremacy. Even though they had been bestowed artifacts by the chaotic lifeforms, even though they had an array to fall back on, they were still unable to withstand a single blow from the Supremacy. Divine Emperor Onyx felt as if he was seeing the Supremacy who had swept through the universe back then once more, invincible and unparalleled in the universe. That invincible Supremacy from back then had really returned. Father, I know where my little sister, grandparents, and the others are, Lin Shang hurriedly said at the side. In that case, head there immediately. As for the others, Lin Feng made a grabbing motion with his hand. Those massive divine emperor, whose combat bodies were comparable to countless galaxies, were all crushed by Lin Feng with a single palm strike like fragile eggs. Bang, bang, bang. Dozens of divine emperors were all crushed. Flames instantly swept over as well, burning them to ashes. The entire cosmos suddenly became incomparably calm and empty, as if nothing had happened. Lin Feng led Lin Shang into space immediately and warped towards the Bemond galaxy, leaving the middle-aged man and Xianxia staring blankly at everything in front of them. Master, it's really the Supremacy. The Supremacy has returned. Xianxia was very excited. Although he had heard of the Supremacy in the past, he actually had no concept of the Supremacy. After all, when Xianxia was born, the Supremacy had long become a legend. No matter how impressive a legend was, how could it compare to being here and witnessing the glory of the Supremacy with his own eyes? Xianxia could envision that with the return of the Supremacy, the entire universe would rise once more. Perhaps there was really hope for the universe to be saved. In an empty cosmos in the Bemond galaxy, many divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors had descended, completely sealing the entire cosmos. When these famed divine kings and divine venerables manifested their combat bodies, forget about one galaxy, even 10 or 100 galaxies would be easily blasted apart. What's going on? Why are there suddenly so many divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors? These people seem to be traitors who have joined those chaotic lifeforms. They're indeed traitors. Why are they in the Bemond galaxy again? Last time, they came and killed Divine King Bamond. Why are they here this time? Some planetary level or even stronger cultivators had already sensed the commotion here, and were watching from afar. The current Bamond galaxy had long changed drastically. As the most staunch supporter of the Universe Alliance, Divine King Bamond, who was closely related to the former Universe Supremacy, Lin Feng, and the Supremacy family, had already been killed by those chaotic lifeforms back then. As a result, the Bamond galaxy began to decline. Forget about divine kings and divine venerables, there were not even many grand emperors. Now that so many divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors had gathered, some observant people immediately sensed that something had probably happened in the Bamond galaxy. This is the place. Divine Emperor Xianxia glanced across the place. He was a top-notch divine emperor. After joining those chaotic lifeforms, he had gained deep trust from them. They had even made some promises to him. In the future, Divine Emperor Xianxia would have a chance to leave the origin universe and enter the chaos, and might even become a chaotic lifeform. Hence, Divine Emperor Xianxia was also the person who was most concerned about hunting down the Supremacy family. For a full 10 years, Divine Emperor Xianxia had never given up on hunting down the people from the Supremacy family. Now he had finally obtained a key clue. The Supremacy family was very likely hiding in the Bamond galaxy. Search carefully. Don't miss an inch. With Divine Emperor Xianxia's order, all the divine kings and divine venerables immediately began to take action. Even if there was a concealment array on the planet the Supremacy family was on concealing them, as long as a thorough search was conducted, they would definitely be found. At this moment, Chu Chun, Lin Xian, and the other core members of the Lin family had already seen the divine kings and divine venerables outside, searching the place thoroughly. Everyone knew very well that disaster was really inevitable for the Lin family this time. It's been 10 years. We've been hiding for 10 years. This day will come sooner or later. Feng Xianxia tried his best. I've also tried my best. Unfortunately, we still can't protect the Lin family, Chu Chun muttered softly. She knew that once the traitors serving the chaotic lifeform noticed the Bamond galaxy, everything would be over. Originally, Chu Chun was still looking forward to seeing Lin Feng again, that a miracle might happen. However, after 10 years without any news from Lin Feng, Chu Chun no longer held out any hope. This time it was complete despair. Goodbye, Feng. Chu Chun closed her eyes, and so did the Lin family. Facing so many divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors, any resistance from the Lin family was meaningless. Now, they could only wait quietly for the family's end to arrive. Boom! Suddenly, the ground shook. Felt as if the entire planet was shaking. Haha, we found them, we found them. The people of the Supremacy family are hiding here. A divine king was overjoyed. He had discovered the planet the Supremacy family was hiding on. Such a great contribution was enough for those chaotic lifeforms to give him some good rewards, and even allow him to enter the chaos. That was an opportunity that countless divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors dreamed of. Entering the chaos practically meant ascending to the top in a single step. Come out! Divine Emperor Xianxia manifested his combat body. With a grab of his hand, the cosmos shook, and even the surrounding space was shattered. How daunting was the power of a divine emperor. After shattering the space, as expected, a planet appeared. This planet was very small and unique. It was covered in dense arrays, all of which were concealment arrays. It almost blended into space and was perfectly concealed in space. Without a careful and thorough search, no one could have discovered this planet. Haha! I finally found you. A smile appeared on Divine Emperor Xianxia's face. His mental power sensed many familiar auras on this planet. They were all members of the Supremacy family. However, Divine Emperor Xianxia did not enter the planet immediately. Instead, he stood with his hands behind his back, as if he was waiting for something quietly. Soon, a figure walked out of the planet. Divine Emperor Xianxia. Back when innumerable divine emperors showed up before Lin Feng, you were also among them. You even joined the Universe Alliance. Why are you so keen on targeting us now? Divine Emperor Xianxia shook his head and heaved a long sigh. Madam Chu, you are the wife of the supremacy, but you are not a true cultivator. The supreme goal that cultivators like us pursue is transcendence, but transcendence is difficult. It is extremely difficult, more so than you could ever imagine. Up until now, the supremacy is the only transcendent in the universe. Those chaotic lifeforms can use special methods to bring us out of the universe and into the chaos. The vast chaos contains infinite opportunities. I cannot resist such temptation, and I'm not the only one. The other divine emperors cannot either. Divine Emperor Xuannin's expression was a little complicated. He actually had some respect for Chu Chun, the wife of the supremacy. Even though he was here under orders, he did not want to make things difficult for the members of the supremacy family. However, in order to enter the chaos, Divine Emperor Xianxia had no choice but to give up some of his previous principles. You insist on capturing us? That's right. We must capture all the members of the supremacy family. We can't let a single member of the supremacy bloodline off. Chu Chen's face turned even paler, and her slender body seemed ready to give out. Swoosh, swoosh. More figures flew into the cosmos. Mother, don't compromise with him. At worst, we'll fight to the death. When father returns in the future, he definitely won't let them off. Xianxia gritted her teeth and glared at Divine Emperor Xianxia. In her eyes, these divine emperors were genuine traitors. They had betrayed the alliance and the universe. Divine Emperor Xuannin's expression turned cold. He retracted his smile and stood with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, Xianxia, don't think that supremacy is invincible. Times are different now. So what if the supremacy returns? The power of those chaotic lifeforms is far beyond your imagination. Even divine emperors like us are no longer the same as before. Even the supremacy from back then might not be my match either. Divine Emperor Xianxia was very confident. Back then, between joining, resisting, or going into hiding and staying out of the affairs, Divine Emperor Xianxia chose to join the chaotic lifeforms. For perfected lords who had cultivated a perfected spirit, as long as their perfected spirit was not destroyed, the perfected lord would not die, and could reincarnate and cultivate again. How terrifying was this? There were perfected lords among those chaotic merchants, and more than one of them. In fact, behind the chaotic merchants was a supreme perfected deity above all the chaotic perfected persons and perfected lords. That was a terrifying perfected deity that could be considered a god, even in the chaos. The chaos was vast and boundless, and there were too many experts to count. Divine Emperor Xianxia was truly tempted. He yearned for the chaos, and was even willing to join chaotic lifeforms and work for them voluntarily. He only hoped to leave the universe and enter the chaos. The supremacy family was the greatest gift Divine Emperor Xianxia could offer to those chaotic lifeforms. Divine Emperor Xianxia was very pleased with himself. Now, these members of the supremacy family were already trapped, and could be captured at any time. He was in an extremely fine mood. Is that so? Divine Emperor Xianxia, it's been many years since we last met. I'd like to see how you're different from before. Suddenly, a sound appeared in the quiet cosmos. Rings of spatial ripples began to spread rapidly in all directions, like ripples in water. This voice. Foam. Chu Chun was originally filled with despair, and her face was pale. However, when she heard this familiar voice, she suddenly raised her head. Her face turned rosy all of a sudden, and her slender body trembled in excitement. She stared intently at the spatial ripples. A huge spatial gap had already vaguely appeared. It was deep and dark, filled with a mysterious aura. Who is it? Divine Emperor Xuannin's expression changed drastically, appearing as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Swoosh! Two figures walked out of the spatial passage. Many people were familiar with one of them. He was the son of the supremacy, Grand Emperor Lin Sheng. But who was the other man standing in front of Lin Sheng, and bearing a great similarity in appearance to Lin Sheng? Why did they look so much alike? Brother, that's... Xianxia's eyes widened in disbelief. Feng, is it really you? However, Chu Chun recognized him at once. Never mind 10,000 years. She would never forget this familiar face even in 100,000 years, a million years or billions of years. It's me, Chen. It's been hard on you. I'm late. Lin Feng took a step forward and came to Chu Chen's side. When roaming the chaos, he had never thought that it would take so long. For the sake of cultivation, he had already missed too much and owed his family too much. This was especially the case for his wife. They should have been family by each other's side for life. But Lin Feng had been separated from Chu Chun for far longer than they had been together. Lin Feng owed Chu Chun far too much. Brother Feng, it's really you. Good, this is great. You're finally back. I've always been worried that if you really return one day, you might not be able to see me. Chu Chun recalled everything in the past and could not help but cry. Even though she was the wife of the Supremacy, who had once stood at the top of the universe and controlled the colossus that was the Universe Alliance, she was still a woman who hoped to be reunited with her husband. Father, Alliance leader, Supremacy, Ancestor is back. Many members of the Lin family were very excited. This was the Ancestor, the legend of the Lin family, once the strongest person in the universe Supremacy, the only transcendent. All kinds of reputations had almost deified Lin Feng. While Lin Feng was away, 10,000 years had passed in the universe. There was no knowing how many descendants Lin Shang and Lin Xian had. The Lin family had also developed into a huge Supremacy family. Hence, Lin Feng was indeed the ancestor of the Lin family now. Very good. It's good that everyone is fine. At least it's not too late. Lin Feng looked at the familiar people and faces. There was his father, big brother, second brother, little sister, daughter, and many descendants of the Lin family. There were simply countless of them on the planet. After all, over the past 10,000 years, the scale of the Lin family had become very massive. The members of the Lin family were very excited, but some people felt as if they had been plunged into an ice cellar. Supremacy, Lin Feng, Divine Emperor Xianxia bit his lip, feeling incomparably complicated. Fear, excitement, madness, and so on lingered in his heart. It's your turn, Divine Emperor Xianxia. I'll give you a chance. If you can resist a finger from me, I'll spare your life. Lin Feng turned around and stood with his hands behind his back. He stood in the cosmos, looking down at Divine Emperor Xianxia. That look again. Divine Emperor Xianxia gritted his teeth. Back then, he was a dignified Divine Emperor, the hegemon of an era. However, ever since Lin Feng rose to power and became a Supremacy, tens of thousands of Divine Emperors had come to pay their respects. It had been a grand sight. If that was all, Divine Emperor Xianxia would have let it be. It was not like Supremacies had never appeared in the universe. Back then, he could only swallow his discontent and suppress the traces of turmoil in his heart. However, later on, Lin Feng actually transcended and became a transcendent. He could leave the origin universe and enter the infinite and vast chaos to continue pursuing a higher realm of cultivation. Divine Emperor Xianxia could not suppress the jealousy in his heart. He also yearned to enter the chaos, and yearned for it to the extreme. Hence, in this invasion of chaotic lifeforms, Divine Emperor Xianxia was one of the few cosmic lifeforms who were genuinely happy. Divine Emperor Xianxia immediately joined those chaotic lifeforms. Moreover, under the guidance of the chaotic lifeforms, he was bestowed with some chaotic artifacts, and his strength improved by up to 100 times. He was confident that even against the Supremacy from back then, he could put up a fight. But now, Lin Feng had returned, yet Lin Feng was still looking at him as if he were an ant. Divine Emperor Xianxia could not tolerate it anymore. Haha! Forget about a finger. So what if you tried your best? Your return today was the greatest mistake. Since you're back, you can forget about ever leaving. Divine Emperor Xianxia roared. He manifested his huge combat body, which emitted infinite light like a scorching sun. In the depths of his combat body, it was as if infinite energy was erupting. It was an artifact, a chaotic artifact that those chaotic life forms called the heart of perpetual motion. Even in the chaos, it could be considered an extremely good chaotic artifact. Relying on this chaotic artifact, Divine Emperor Xianxia surpassed all the other divine emperors and never met his match. He became the undisputed strongest being in the universe and helped those chaotic lifeforms to quickly stabilize and rule over the universe. Do you see that? Lin Feng, although you're the supremacy, you've probably never seen such a formidable power, right? Haha, my strength has increased by up to 100 times, second only to those chaotic lifeforms. What can you do to me? Divine Emperor Xianxia laughed out loud, as if he had returned to the time when he had just become a divine emperor and dominated the universe. Strength. Only strength was eternal. In pursuit of strength, Divine Emperor Xianxia was willing to forsake everything. He did not care about the chaotic lifeforms or the universe supremacy. Before Divine Emperor Xianxia, whose combat body was massive to the extreme, Lin Feng was like a tiny grain of sand. He appeared just too small and insignificant. However, Lin Feng's expression did not change at all. He was still expressionless as he said indifferently, "I've already given you a chance. Resist a finger from me, and I'll spare your life." Lin Feng extended a finger. Boom! What kind of finger was this? It was ordinary and casually extended. However, in an instant, the entire universe seemed to be shaking, as if this finger could destroy everything. All the laws of space, time, and so on were rendered completely ineffective before this finger. Even Divine Emperor Xianxia's terrifying combat body burst like a bubble the moment it came into contact with this finger. His massive combat body instantly disintegrated and collapsed completely. No, how can this be? My heart of perpetual motion. Divine Emperor Xianxia's eyes widened. He mobilized the heart of perpetual motion in his body in a frenzy. Infinite power erupted and surged out of his body. However, no matter how strong he was, it seemed to be useless before this finger. He could only watch helplessly as the finger pressed down. Crack. A crack appeared on the heart of perpetual motion. Then the cracks grew dense like spiderwebs, and it shattered all of a sudden. No! Divine Emperor Xianxia cried out in pain, and his massive combat body collapsed with a bang. Lin Feng's finger pressed down hard like a finger that could hold up the sky, instantly crushing Divine Emperor Xianxia into dust. Even the power of a single finger was so overwhelming. All the divine kings, divine venerables, and even the other divine emperors who had followed Divine Emperor Xianxia here could not help but gasp. They had only seen such power from those chaotic lifeforms. Those chaotic lifeforms were also ordinary-looking and did not even have combat bodies. Their bodies were as insignificant as dust, yet they possessed earth-shattering power. They could blow up the entire universe with ease. Supremacy, please spare us. We realize our mistake now. Supremacy, please spare us. We had no choice. Supremacy, I know where those chaotic lifeforms are. Even Divine Emperor Xianxia was dead. These divine kings and divine venerables were cowards to begin with. Otherwise, they would not have joined the chaotic lifeforms. As soon as they saw that the situation was going south, they immediately begged Lin Feng to spare their lives. Faced with these double-crossers, Lin Feng's expression was apathetic. Then he flicked his finger. Swish, swish, swish. Streaks of flames flew out. They were just specks of fire, but when they landed on these divine kings and divine venerables, they immediately turned into a raging inferno. No matter how huge their combat body was, it was impossible for them to escape the fate of being burned to ashes. There were also some remaining ordinary cultivators. Lin Feng blew directly. Immediately, violent winds blew, and the void shattered. Countless planetary and galactic lifeforms were reduced to ashes by Lin Feng in a breath. With Lin Feng's current strength, if he manifested a hallowed body, he could easily crush the entire origin universe with a finger and freeze the boundless void with a breath. No divine king, divine venerable, or divine emperor could resist it. Only those who had truly reached Lin Feng's level, which was comparable to a top-notch perfected deity, could understand how fragile lifeforms in the origin universe were. Even transcendents who had just transcended and had yet to metamorphose into chaotic lifeforms were incomparably fragile. The cosmos was vacant, Countless divine kings and divine venerables were killed by Lin Feng in one go, and the entire cosmos was emptied. The Lin clan naturally cheered. With Lin Feng's return, they also regained their mainstay. All the crises of the Lin family had been resolved. Feng, Chu Chun leaned into Lin Feng's arms. How many years had she been waiting for Lin Feng's return? She had thought that she would never see Lin Feng again, but she did not expect Lin Feng to finally appear at the last moment. The return of the supremacy would definitely cause a stir in the universe. Killing these mere divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors was not worth mentioning to Lin Feng. These people were only traitors, but they were not the main culprits who wreaked havoc in the universe. The true source was still those chaotic life forms. Lin Feng had not forgotten that this origin universe had already lost the universe origin, and was gradually approaching death. Those chaotic life forms were the instigators. They were the source of all crimes. The endless killing and countless vengeful spirits in the entire universe must be avenged with the blood of those chaotic life forms. T Mother. Lin Sheng walked over and said with a guilty expression, "I am sorry for putting you through this." "No, Shenger. You're the one who has suffered." Lin Shang, Lin Xian, Chu Chan, and the other core members of the Lin family were reunited. They all expressed their longing for each other during this period of time. With Lin Feng presiding over the family, the Lin family had their mainstay, and no longer had to fear any threat. Lin Feng also saw his parents and many unfamiliar faces. They were all juniors of the Lin family. Lin Feng was very unfamiliar with them. He had never seen them before, but he could sense the familiar bloodline in their bodies. That was his bloodline. After all, in the past 10,000 years, the Lin family had already continued for many generations. There was no knowing how many descendants were born to the bloodline. Those that Lin Shang urgently transferred were actually some direct relatives, as well as many collateral relatives. Many of the collateral bloodlines, such as his sister's descendants and many descendants of his eldest and second brothers, had not been transferred in time and were slaughtered. Actually, those chaotic life forms did not attack us. The ones who personally hunted us down were all those traitors. They must pay in blood. Lin Shang gritted his teeth. He clearly hated those traitors to the bone. There were simply countless traitors like Divine Emperor Xianyin. Moreover, they were all working very hard to hunt down the supremacy family. Many of the collateral bloodlines of the Lin family were killed by the traitors. The Lin clansmen also abhorred these traitors. They were even more detestable than those chaotic life forms. However, Lin Feng knew that the main culprits were actually those chaotic life forms. Otherwise, how could the traitors dare to attack the Lin family? Shanger, where are those chaotic life forms? Father, are you really going to attack those chaotic life forms? That's right. I originally planned to come back and bring you into the chaos this time. I didn't expect the origin universe to encounter a calamity. Those chaotic life forms are the actual main culprits. Even the universe origin has been stolen. Of course I can't let them off. Lin Shang's expression was a little hesitant, but he still said in a low voice, "Father, the culprits are indeed those chaotic life forms, but those chaotic life forms are not simple either. According to the information revealed by those traitors, those chaotic life forms do not seem to be ordinary chaotic life forms, but chaotic merchants. Back then, the few chaotic life forms in the lead seemed to be above ordinary chaotic life forms, and were perfected lords. There are even supreme perfected deities behind the chaotic merchants. Father, it's best not to provoke such a colossus unless absolutely confident in winning. Those chaotic life forms don't seem to have received the news yet. We can still escape quickly." That's right, that's right. Feng, those chaotic life forms are too terrifying. They even tried to plot to lure you out once. You've only transcended for 10,000 years, and those chaotic life forms have cultivated for countless years. Even if you want revenge, we should wait until success is guaranteed. That's right, Fenger. You were once the universe supremacy, but times have changed. Even if you're a chaotic life form, those are dozens of those chaotic life forms. If we want to take revenge, we have to make plans for the long term. Be it Lin Shang, Chu Chun, Mr. and Mrs. Lin, All of them felt a lingering fear when they heard that Lin Feng wanted to take revenge on those chaotic lifeforms and dissuaded Lin Feng. They had witnessed the savagery of those chaotic lifeforms with their own eyes. That power was still fresh in their minds even after many years. In particular, there was not just one chaotic lifeform but dozens of them. Although Lin Feng was very strong, even if he had become a chaotic lifeform, how could he deal with dozens of chaotic lifeforms, let alone the powerful entities behind those chaotic lifeforms? Heh! No matter who's behind those chaotic lifeforms, I'll make them pay in blood. Killing intent burst forth from Lin Feng's eyes like perennial ice. Everyone could clearly sense the terrifying killing intent in Lin Feng's heart. Vice President, I have an important matter to report. Go on. The only transcendent in this universe has already returned. Huh? The transcendent has returned. The vice president of the Infinity Chamber of Commerce opened his eyes. He had a slightly bloated figure and looked a little chubby, but his eyes were huge and he looked very cunning. I remember that the transcendent's name is Lin Feng, right? That's right. His name is Lin Feng. According to the flow of time in this universe, it has only been 1,000 years since this Lin Feng transcended and went to the chaos. How far can he cultivate in just 1,000 years? An advanced chaotic life form? He may only still be an ordinary chaotic life form. The vice president shook his head, unconcerned. In reality, he was still very cautious. Back when he learned about the transcendent, he had used the intelligence network of the Chamber of Commerce to investigate. There was no such person in the holy cities of chaos at all. There was just some vague news regarding a perfected Lord Lin Feng, who had killed a perfected deity in the holy city Prima Mobile. This news had long spread throughout the 7 holy cities of chaos. However, the vice president did not even think about it. What a joke. That perfected Lord Lin Feng could kill a perfected deity above his level because he had cultivated a terrifying divine ability as a perfected lord. Although they were both called Lin Feng, how could someone become a perfected lord after transcending for only 1,000 years, and even kill perfected deities above his level? Even the most delusional person would not link the two of them together. At most, they just happened to share the same name. There were countless cultivators with identical names in the chaos. The difference between the two was like a huge mountain and an inconspicuous ant. No one would link them together. Vice President, after this transcendent returned, he was undefeated in the universe. Even Divine Emperor Xianxia was killed by him. Divine Emperor Xianxia is dead? He's just a pawn. So what if he's dead? It's a pity that chaotic artifact is lost, though. How useless. He was bestowed with a chaotic artifact, yet he was actually killed by a transcendent who has only cultivated for 1,000 years. The vice president shook his head, then raised his brows and said, Let perfected Lord Nonopal Source lead the team of 8 chaotic perfected persons to capture that transcendent and his family. There must be something extraordinary about someone who could transcend. If we can figure out some trick to it, perhaps His Majesty the perfected deity will be pleased enough to give us some rewards. The vice president waved his hand. His subordinates accepted the order and left. To him, this was just a minor matter. Cultivation was the top priority. As His Majesty the perfected deity had discovered an origin universe, he was very pleased. He even rewarded the vice president with many treasures. The vice president was sorting through the rewards from His Majesty the perfected deity, and sought to improve his divine ability further. In the Bamon Galaxy, Lin Feng took up the rare chance to accompany his family. He did not search for those chaotic lifeforms, but waited quietly. He knew that those chaotic lifeforms would definitely not let a transcendent like him off. After all, transcendents were also rare research subjects in the chaos. According to the flow of time, the time he spent cultivating in the chaos after transcending was only 1,000 years at most. What could someone achieve in just 1,000 years? Lin Feng did not need to move. Those chaotic lifeforms would naturally come looking for him. Hence, Lin Feng made arrangements for all the Lin clansmen, and even ordered the 3,000 universe demons to protect them. Apart from perfected lords, no one could harm the Lin clansmen. Even those perfected lords would find it very difficult to injure the Lin clansmen. The array formed by 3,000 peak chaotic lifeforms was so powerful that even perfected lords had to avoid its brunt. Lin Feng stayed quietly on the planet, his consciousness immersed in the internal universe. Currently, Lin Feng's internal universe was already incomparably huge, much larger than the origin universe. However, last time, Lin Feng had comprehended that there was still something incomplete about his internal universe, and that was reincarnation. There had never been reincarnations in Lin Feng's internal universe. This was not a situation where Lin Feng could get reincarnations just because he wanted to. A world and a universe could only be considered consummate with natural reincarnations. There was reincarnation in the chaos. Hence, a perfected lord's perfected spirit could reincarnate and return to his peak. Lin Feng's internal universe was abundant in energy, but the 3,000 universe demons were ultimately unable to undergo metamorphosis and could not cultivate a perfected spirit. It was because reincarnation had yet to be established in his internal universe. Perfected deity all desires divine ability allowed Lin Feng to comprehend some of the true meaning of reincarnation. In particular, reincarnation was crucial to his internal universe. However, it was too difficult to establish reincarnation or allow reincarnation to come into being naturally in his internal universe. He even had a hypothesis that once reincarnation came into being in his internal universe would truly be consummate and perfect. At that time, there might be a qualitative metamorphosis. Lin Feng did not know what would happen then. If there's reincarnation, can it trap the perfected spirit of a perfected lord and prevent it from reincarnating in the chaos? Lin Feng's current focus was actually on how to kill the perfected spirit. Although Lin Feng could kill perfected deities now, and had killed countless perfected lords, be it perfected lords or perfected deities, they had only died in their current life. They still had a next life, and could continue to reincarnate and return to their peak one day. Even if Lin Feng was not afraid, it would still be troublesome. Lin Feng wanted to kill a perfected lord or even a perfected deity once and for all, and even annihilate their perfected spirit. Only then could they be considered annihilated in both spirit and form, and fall completely. However, the techniques to kill perfected spirits were too difficult. Even those perfected lords or perfected deities who claimed to be able to kill perfected spirits found them very difficult. At the very least, Lin Feng learned through the Mutual Assistance Alliance that there were actually very few techniques to kill perfected spirits. Even those top-notch perfected deities might not have them. Some perfected lords or perfected deities who claimed to be able to kill perfected spirits actually did not have any techniques to kill perfected spirits. What was Lin Feng's current advantage over other perfected lords and perfected deities? It was undoubtedly the spirit flame hallowed body. However, no matter how strong the spirit flame hallowed body was, and despite its ability to kill perfected deities, it was still unable to annihilate the perfected spirits. Apart from that, Lin Feng only had the internal universe. This was his true reliance. However, Lin Feng had tried it before. If he killed a perfected lord in the internal universe, their perfected spirit could also fly out of the internal universe and reincarnate in the depths of chaos. Lin Feng had no way to keep those perfected spirits behind at all. If I can cause the perfected spirit to reincarnate in the internal universe, there might be some hope of completely killing the perfected spirit. Lin Feng actually had an idea as well. His idea was based on the internal universe. In the end, if it could never awaken, it would be equivalent to the complete destruction of the perfected spirit. There were also countless perfected lords whose perfected spirits reincarnated for billions of years without awakening again after they were killed. This was Lin Feng's thought. He could establish a cycle in the internal universe, and cause the perfected spirit of a perfected lord to reincarnate in the internal universe. Then, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for Lin Feng, the creator of the universe, to control the reincarnations, causing the perfected spirit to reincarnate again and again, and thus slowly erase the perfected spirit? This way, wouldn't it be equivalent to possessing the method to completely kill the perfected spirit of a perfected lord? However, establishing reincarnations in the internal universe was easier said than done. How vast was Lin Feng's internal universe? There was no knowing how complex it was to establish such a cycle. First, A place that could accommodate the souls of countless life forms was needed. It was definitely impossible for just a region to accommodate them. After all, there were trillions of living beings. Lin Feng carefully recalled the information in the chaos. It was rumored that there was also reincarnation in the chaos. However, the reincarnation in the chaos seemed to take place in a separate world called the reincarnation realm. After countless living beings in the chaos died, they would enter the reincarnation realm to reincarnate. Only perfected lords who had cultivated perfected spirits could retain their memories. After reincarnation, they would have a chance to awaken and return to their peak. The reincarnation realm was intangible and the foundation of the chaos. Apart from the 7 hallowed venerables, no one else could sense the reincarnation realm, let alone find it. Hence, despite its importance, the reincarnation realm always remained enigmatic. It was passed down by word of mouth, but no one had ever seen it. Lin Feng was inclined to believe in the existence of the reincarnation realm. Since he wanted to use the chaos as a template for reincarnation to be established in the internal universe, it required its own reincarnation realm. The reincarnation realm is a world of its own. What it needs is a world, but where can I find another world? Lin Feng frowned. He did not know the exact structure of the reincarnation realm. From the rumors, he felt that there was indeed a reincarnation realm in the chaos. However, according to the rumors, it was simply too difficult to establish the reincarnation realm in the internal universe, and it was even a little delusional. The reincarnation realm is a world of its own. What it needs is a complete world, a world. Gradually, Lin Feng seemed to have thought of something. Inspiration flashed through his mind. He tried to grasp it but could not. It was as if it was lingering in front of him. A world. A lotus seed on the chaotic lotus. Doesn't the world lotus seed contain a world? Lin Feng's mind suddenly cleared. An idea flashed through his mind, and he thought of the world lotus seed. Wasn't the world lotus seed which contained a complete world suitable for transforming into the reincarnation realm of the internal universe? At that, Lin Feng opened his eyes. With a thought, he extended his palm. Buzz. A light appeared in his palm. Then, the light gradually dissipated, and a vibrant green lotus seed appeared in his palm. World lotus seed. Lin Feng muttered softly. He had entered the world lotus seed before. It was indeed a world, but he had not discovered reincarnation either. Moreover, the world contained in the world lotus seed was far weaker than Lin Feng's internal universe. However, no matter how fragile it was still a world, enough to accommodate the reincarnation realm. Moreover, establishing a reincarnation cycle in the internal universe did not depend on the world lotus seed alone. All the power in Lin Feng's internal universe had to be mobilized to establish the reincarnation realm that encompassed the entire universe. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure manifested in the internal universe. Immediately, it emanated infinite power, and countless living beings seemed to prostrate themselves before Lin Feng, the god of creation. In the name of the god of creation, I establish a cycle of reincarnation in my world. From now on, the cycle of reincarnation establishes order. The living and the dead are eternally separated. Life has its own path and death has its own path. The cosmic cycle, the reincarnation realm, come into being. With great perseverance, great power, and great skill, Lin Feng instantly mobilized the power of the entire universe. Rumble. The universe shook, and Lin Feng's voice echoed in the ears of countless living beings. They instantly understood the meaning of reincarnation. There was a path of life and a path of death. There was a dilemma between life and death, and the living and the dead would be separated forever. From now on, they would have somewhere to return to after death. In the universe, a green lotus seed began to quickly integrate into the entire universe. Boundless power enveloped the world lotus seed, and a huge change occurred instantaneously within the world lotus seed. It was as if it was connected to the entire universe all of a sudden. With the ability to connect to various parts of the universe, it was the true center of the huge universe, but it was also hidden in the universe. Apart from Lin Feng, no one could sense or find the reincarnation realm. Swoosh! 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 Once the reincarnation realm was established, with Lin Feng's ability as the god of creation, its effect was naturally immediate. Countless souls entered the reincarnation realm and were constantly disintegrated by the reincarnation realm, removing their memories and any traces of the universe. They were like blank sheets of paper upon entering reincarnation. The meaning of reincarnation was not that the number of lives would never increase. In reality, as the universe expanded, as the universe was perfected, and as lives naturally proliferated and developed, there would definitely be more and more lives because the total entropy of the universe was always increasing. However, the greatest use of reincarnation was balance. It balanced the entire universe, the entire world, and all living beings. Once a living being died, they would be sent to the reincarnation realm, and all traces and memories would be erased. Then, they would reincarnate again as a whole new life form, which would no longer have anything to do with their previous life. Everything in the past would remain in the past. This was the meaning of reincarnation. The entire world would thrive, and balance would be restored. The reincarnation realm operated on its own. No one needed to interfere. Even the chaotic lotus could not interfere. Only Lin Feng, as the god of creation, could interfere. The reincarnation realm had just been established, and it was already serving the function of balance. For example, some powerful living beings in the universe were too strong. They were also beneficial to the universe. It was a pity that such powerful living beings disappeared just like that. However, with reincarnation, they could reincarnate elsewhere and become a blank sheet of paper again. Perhaps in a few decades or 100 years, they could become famous and powerful living beings again. Lin Feng could control reincarnation, and he could interfere by force. With every reincarnation, a little of the soul imprint would be erased. This kind of soul imprint was the most important thing. If it was a perfected spirit, it would be a perfected spirit imprint. It might not be erased in one go, but if it was erased 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 or 10,000 times in reincarnation, even the perfected spirit would not be able to hold out and would be obliterated. Lin Feng opened his eyes. The reincarnation realm in his internal universe had been formed, and the reincarnation cycle had begun. Gradually, the region was balanced and order was established. In the future, as time passed, it would only become stronger. However, Lin Feng was not certain if he could trap or even completely obliterate the perfected spirit. He had to test it. Looking at the time, they should be arriving soon. Lin Feng raised his head and looked into the depths of the distant cosmos. He knew that those chaotic merchants would definitely not leave things alone. This period of time was enough for those chaotic merchants to react. In fact, Lin Feng hoped that the other party would not send people who were too weak. It would be best if there were perfected lords. Only perfected lords had cultivated perfected spirits. He could use them to test if the newly established reincarnation realm in his internal universe could trap perfected spirits. But, not long after, traces of spatial ripples indeed appeared in the quiet and cold cosmos. Boom! The spatial ripples even shattered directly, and space shattered as 9 figures appeared. These 9 figures were not too tall. Before the combat bodies of those divine kings and divine venerables, they simply paled in comparison, and did not hold a candle to them. They appeared just too insignificant. However, the aura on their bodies was very terrifying, far surpassing those divine kings and divine venerables. Even the laws of the universe shattered with a bang, unable to approach him at all. Lin Feng could not be more familiar with this aura. This was the aura of chaos. They were all chaotic perfected persons. There was even a chaotic perfected lord among the 9 figures. Transcendent Lin Feng, come and die. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source's voice spread throughout the entire cosmos. All of the void was shattered. If not for the protection of the 3,000 universe demons, this voice alone would probably be enough to shatter the planet where the Lin clansmen were. This was what it meant to be a chaotic life form. Even the Lin clansmen who were very confident in Lin Feng previously could not help but feel a little worried at this moment. Those who had not seen chaotic life forms with their own eyes could never imagine how powerful they were. But now, just a voice alone could destroy infinite space and shake the universe. Even 10 or 100 divine emperors could not compare to it. This was enough to show how terrifying those chaotic lifeforms were. Back then, only 3 chaotic lifeforms had annihilated dozens of divine emperors. But what was the situation now? A total of 9 figures had actually appeared in the cosmos at once, which meant there were 9 chaotic lifeforms. Anyone would be worried about such a formidable lineup. Supremacy, be careful. Those are all chaotic lifeforms. Among the Lin clansmen, only the core members Chu Chen, Lin Xian, Lin Shang, and the others knew how formidable Lin Feng was now, and how glorious Lin Feng's past achievements in the chaos were. What were chaotic lifeforms, or even chaotic perfected lords? They only knew that Lin Feng had said confidently and domineeringly, "I've even killed perfected deities." Those were supreme perfected deities. After those traitors spread the word, even cultivators in the universe knew that above chaotic lifeforms were perfected lords, and above perfected lords were supreme perfected deities, who were hegemons of a region even in the chaos. He could kill even perfected deities. And these were just chaotic lifeforms. Hence, at this moment, the core members of the Lin clan were very relaxed, and not worried in the slightest. They're here. Lin Feng looked at the 9 figures manifested in the shattered cosmos. Chaotic perfected persons. It had been a long time since he had seen chaotic perfected persons. As for fighting them, that was a very distant memory. Swoosh! Lin Feng took a step forward. As if there were layers of stairs under his feet, he slowly ascended step by step and walked into the cosmos. He stood with his hands behind his back, allowing the pitch-black space around him to explode, as if it had nothing to do with him. Your transcendent Lin Feng. Perfected Lord Nonable Source frowned slightly, feeling that something was amiss. He could not actually see through Lin Feng. He could only vaguely sense that Lin Feng's body should be a chaotic body, and there was chaotic aura on his body. He should be a chaotic life form. However, he could not sense exactly what level Lin Feng had cultivated to. Either Lin Feng had a way to conceal his own aura, or Lin Feng was far stronger than him. The second possibility was minuscule. Perfected Lord Nonable Source did not even consider it. This was because it was almost impossible. Lin Feng had only cultivated in the chaos for at most 1,000 years. How much could he achieve in merely 1,000 years? Even the geniuses of the 7 holy cities of chaos would be considered very impressive if they could cultivate from an ordinary chaotic lifeform to a peak chaotic lifeform in 1,000 years. As for a perfected lord, there was no need to even consider it. Such a genius might only appear once in tens of thousands of years, and there was no knowing how profound their opportunities must be. I am perfected Lord Nonable Source, transcendent on account of how difficult it was for you to transcend. Give up on resistance. You should know that as perfected lords, as long as our perfected spirits are not extinguished, we are undying. We can even control the chaotic rules. Every move we make contains terrifying power that can destroy a world. A transcendent like you who's just a chaotic life form cannot withstand such majestic power. Perfected Lord Nonable Source also said blandly, his tone filled with apathy. However, Lin Feng was silent. His expression remained just as indifferent and unmoved, and his gaze was calm as ever. However, such a calm gaze infuriated perfected Lord Nonable Source. He was a dignified perfected lord, and his status was considerable even in the infinity chamber of commerce. Any perfected lord status was actually considerable even in the holy cities, let alone in the chaos outside the holy cities. When a perfected lord was enraged, they would be a terrifying entity that could destroy a chaotic continent. When had he, perfected Lord Nonable Source, ever been disregarded by an ordinary chaotic life form that was only a transcendent? I'll capture you and destroy your Lin family. Let's see if you can still display such arrogance then. Attack! Perfected Lord Nonable Source waved his hand. Immediately, the 8 chaotic perfected persons, all of whom were advanced chaotic lifeforms, formed an array. Could even contend against peak chaotic lifeforms. Perfected Lord Nonable Source already regarded Lin Feng rather highly. After all, Lin Feng was a transcendent. Perfected Lord Nonable Source, had heard various miraculous legends of transcendence in the chaos countless times. He actually took Lin Feng rather seriously and treated him as a peak chaotic lifeform. He ordered the 8 chaotic perfected persons to do their best, and they absolutely did not dare to underestimate Lin Feng. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 8 chaotic perfected persons formed an array and sealed the void. Lin Feng was surrounded in the middle, and the power of the array was suppressing him. Seeing that Lin Feng was motionless and did not even dodge the array, Perfected Lord Nonopal Source let down his guard. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source shook his head. Initially, he was still a little worried, so he appeared very cautious. However, from the looks of it, he had indeed overestimated Lin Feng. Even if he was a miraculous transcendent, how far could he cultivate in just 1,000 years? You're quite cautious. Lin Feng glanced at Perfected Lord Nonopal Source. Although Perfected Lord Nonopal Source sounded very arrogant and nonchalant, the 8 chaotic perfected persons he deployed were all very cautious. They did not underestimate a mere chaotic lifeform like him. Trying to win with an advantage in numbers? 3,000 universe demons. I summon you. Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back. A few mere chaotic perfected persons were not worth his time at all. Swoosh, swoosh. Immediately, 8 universe demons flew over from the void. They were also chaotic lifeforms, but they were peak chaotic lifeforms. Greetings, Father Deity. The 8 universe demons were all peak chaotic lifeforms. The aura on their bodies was incomparably terrifying. Even without forming an array, it was still daunting, and their power was far stronger than the 8 perfected persons under Perfected Lord Nonopal Source. Huh? 8 peak chaotic lifeforms. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source's expression changed. He immediately had a bad premonition. Where did Lin Feng, the transcendent, find these 8 peak chaotic lifeforms? Go tear them apart. You can enjoy yourselves today. Gore! The 8 universe demons roared at the sky with great excitement. They were universe demons to begin with, born to carry Lin Feng's universe. Actually, all of them were incomparably savage, and only listened to Lin Feng's orders. In the past, Lin Feng would still use the power of the 3,000 universe demons and let them out to catch some fresh air. But now, Lin Feng's strength was already comparable to a perfected deity. His enemies were all top-notch perfected lords or even perfected deities. The 3,000 universe demons could no longer help Lin Feng much. Hence, the 3,000 universe demons had very little chance of leaving the universe. Now that they had obtained a chance, and Lin Feng was not restraining them, how could these universe demons not be excited? Hence, the 8 universe demons all transformed into monstrous giants. Their terrifying chaotic bodies emitted a daunting aura as they pounced toward the 8 chaotic perfected persons at once. There was a crackling sound. The power of the 8 universe demons far exceeded Perfected Lord Nonopal Source's imagination. Even an array formed by 8 chaotic perfected persons should, by right, be able to contend with peak chaotic perfected persons. However, the truth was that they could not even resist a single universe demon. The array was torn apart by the universe demons. They opened their bloody maws and instantly tore the 8 chaotic perfected persons into pieces, devouring them completely. Even Lin Feng was a little surprised by the performance of these 8 universe demons. In reality, Lin Feng's internal universe had always been expanding, but the 3,000 universe demons had not developed perfected spirits, and their realms had not improved at all. The universe demons were the first batch of lifeforms in the universe, and were closely related to the universe. Hence, these universe demons had actually been accumulating energy constantly. Even if they could only use a small portion of the energy accumulated over time would still be unimaginably powerful, far surpassing ordinary peak chaotic lifeforms. Forget about dealing with 8 advanced chaotic lifeforms, even dealing with 80 or 800 of them was nothing. Using 8 universe demons to deal with these 8 mere advanced chaotic lifeforms was really overkill. What? Perfected Lord Nonopal Source stared. Even if he wanted to save them, he could not. The speed of the universe demons was too fast. It tore the 8 chaotic lifeforms into pieces and devoured them in the blink of an eye. Transcendent. Do you know how great a crime you've committed? They're all chaotic life forms of the infinity chamber of commerce. Once you've killed them, forget about a transcendent like you. Even if your entire family and all the life forms in the entire universe are sacrificed, they won't be able to repay your sins. Die! Perfected Lord Nonopal Source was completely enraged. He was a dignified perfected lord who had led a team to deal with a transcendent. He had thought that it would be a piece of cake. However, he did not expect such a turn of events to occur, and suffered heavy losses. If His Majesty the perfected deity learned of this, he would leave a poor impression. Forget about rewards, he'd be lucky to get off unpunished. Hence, perfected Lord Nonopal Source flew into a complete rage. His perfected spirit communicated with the chaotic rules, and even the origin universe could not stop it. A terrifying chaotic storm was already approaching. Even a trace of it was enough to reduce tens of thousands of chaotic lifeforms to ashes. This was a perfected lord who grasped the chaotic rules. With a thought, he could destroy a world. It would not be difficult for him to even destroy a chaotic continent. Chaotic rule? Lin Feng shook his head. Facing the terrifying chaotic rule, the Lin clansmen of the origin universe were all very nervous. This was a chaotic perfected lord, a supreme entity who grasped the chaotic rule. He was a major figure even in the chaos. Just this terrifying power alone could destroy even 10 origin universes. He lived up to his reputation. Could the supremacy, Lin Feng, resist it? Even if Lin Feng could personally kill a perfected deity, they had only heard of it. Without seeing it with their own eyes, no one could be completely at ease. Mere chaotic rule. Destroy! Lin Feng extended a fair hand. This fair hand instantly transformed into a huge palm that could hold up the sky and grabbed towards perfected Lord Nonopal Source hard. Boom! Perfected Lord Nonopal Source felt the surrounding chaotic rules suddenly shake. Then, an unparalleled power directly destroyed the chaotic rule. The surrounding chaotic rules seemed to have been exiled, and he could no longer sense any chaotic rule. Suppressing the chaotic rules? No, this is something that only top-notch perfected lords who have mastered divine abilities can accomplish. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source was incomparably terrified. Only top-notch perfected lords who had mastered divine abilities could sabotage the chaotic rules. This was already a law of nature. Although he had only just entered the realm of a perfected lord, he could still control the chaotic rule. Only divine abilities cultivated by top-notch perfected lords could completely shatter the chaotic rule. Could this transcendent in front of him actually be a top-notch perfected lord? At this thought, perfected Lord Nonopal Source was also shocked. However, although perfected Lord Nonopal Source was a perfected lord, he had never seen a top-notch perfected lord, let alone a divine ability, so he had no way of making a judgment. There was only one such top-notch perfected lord in the entire infinity chamber of commerce, and his status was very revered. Even His Majesty the perfected deity valued him highly. It's too late to realize it now. Break! Lin Feng had only used a little of the power of the spirit flame hallowed body. As a greater divine ability, and a top-notch greater divine ability at that, Lin Feng could resist the terrifying divine ability of a perfected deity head-on. Even a little power from it was far from what ordinary perfected lords could resist. Thud! Under Lin Feng's huge palm, perfected Lord Nonopal Source was like an eggshell. His chaotic body instantly collapsed and was pulverized. His perfected spirit instantly flew out, about to fly out of the origin universe and enter the depths of chaos to reincarnate. It was almost an ironclad rule that while the perfected spirits were not destroyed, perfected lords were undying. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source was ultimately a perfected lord. No matter how strong Lin Feng was, he could only kill perfected Lord Nonopal Source in this life. If perfected Lord Nonopal Source was lucky, his perfected spirit might only need to reincarnate for a few decades before his memories were awakened, and he recovered his strength. Boom! The internal universe descended. As the origin universe's origin had already been stolen, and the will of the universe had disappeared, the origin universe did not react to the appearance of the internal universe. It allowed the power of the internal universe to envelop this stretch of cosmos. Reincarnation realm capture. Lin Feng activated the reincarnation realm. He could only hope that the reincarnation realm would be of use and retain perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit. Swish. As Lin Feng's internal universe descended, even though the power of the internal universe was incomparably powerful, it did not seem to affect perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit. However, when Lin Feng activated the reincarnation realm, and specifically suppressed perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit, suddenly, the perfected spirit hesitated for a moment, then transformed into a stream of light and flew straight into the reincarnation realm. It's working! Lin Feng was overjoyed. The reincarnation realm in his internal universe was actually useful. Perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit instantly flew into Lin Feng's reincarnation realm. Lin Feng was the god of creation of the internal universe, so he could naturally interfere with the operation of the reincarnation realm. When perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit entered the reincarnation realm, Lin Feng used the reincarnation realm to begin reincarnation again and again, constantly erasing perfected Lord Non-Opal's perfected spirit. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times. In the blink of an eye, perfected Lord Non-Opal Source had reincarnated for 99 lifetimes. If he went through the due process for reincarnation, almost 100 lifetimes would have taken thousands of years. However, with Lin Feng controlling the reincarnation realm, it took only an instant. Forget about reincarnating for almost 100 lifetimes, even reincarnating for thousands or tens of thousands of lifetimes would only take a blink of an eye. The 100th life. Finally, after perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit had reincarnated for 100 lifetimes, his memories still did not awaken. Then, his perfected spirit was completely obliterated and disappeared. This was true annihilation. From now on, there would no longer be any traces of the existence of perfected Lord Non-Opal Source in the world. All traces of him had been erased. The annihilation of his perfected spirit also meant the complete fall of a perfected Lord. He's really annihilated? Lin Feng still could not quite believe it. The moment perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit was annihilated, it seemed to have transformed into an extremely pure and strange power, and disappeared from the reincarnation realm. Or rather, it had fused into the reincarnation realm. Rumble. Lin Feng suddenly raised his head. He saw a storm wreaking havoc in the vast chaos outside the Origin universe, as if it intended to destroy the entire Origin universe. However, the storm quickly subsided. If one did not observe carefully, they would not even notice it. Is it because of the perfected spirit? Lin Feng pondered. If a perfected lord in the chaos died, their perfected spirit would be transferred to the reincarnation realm in the chaos to reincarnate and cultivate again. If they could not awaken their memories, they might gradually be erased and eventually be completely annihilated. However, even after the perfected spirit was annihilated, it would fuse into the chaos and become a part of it. But now, after perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit was annihilated, it did not fuse into the chaos. Instead, it fused into the reincarnation realm in Lin Feng's internal universe, which was equivalent to fusing into Lin Feng's internal universe. Lin Feng did not know if the chaotic tremors just now were due to the annihilation of perfected Lord Non-Opal Source's perfected spirit. However, due to the annihilation of the perfected spirit of perfected Lord Non-Opal Source, there was indeed an inexplicable and subtle change in the reincarnation realm that even Lin Feng could not understand. Lin Feng could not understand this change either, but it should be beneficial to the reincarnation realm. The reincarnation realm seemed to have become more stable, sturdier, and could integrate more souls. Lin Feng came to a realization and already had a vague guess. The reincarnation realm is still growing and becoming stronger. If it can grow to the level of the reincarnation realm in the chaos, perhaps the perfected spirit would not need to undergo 100 reincarnations to be obliterated. Perhaps dozens of reincarnations can annihilate the perfected spirit of a perfected lord. Lin Feng formed a rough hypothesis. He was also very gratified. No matter what, he now had a secret technique that could annihilate perfected spirits. Perfected Lord Non-Opal Source was only an ordinary perfected lord, and needed 100 reincarnations to be annihilated. Then what about a supreme perfected deity? He might have to reincarnate countless times. The perfected spirit of a perfected deity might even be so sturdy that with the current level of the reincarnation realm, it was impossible to annihilate it. However, he still had to try personally to find out how it would go. Father. He won. Supremacy, that was a perfected lord just now. Is he really dead? I heard that as long as the perfected spirit is not destroyed, a perfected lord will not die. The Lin clansmen were all surprised and overjoyed. They saw with their own eyes that Lin Feng had easily crushed perfected Lord Nonopal Source, like he was grabbing a fledgling. Then perfected Lord Nonopal Source was gone. There was no earth-shattering battle. The process felt too easy. One of them had practically crushed the other. Lin Feng had crushed perfected Lord Nonopal Source. It had to be known that that was a perfected lord. He's dead. There's no more perfected Lord Nonopal Source in the world, Lin Feng said indifferently. The Lin clansmen relaxed and began to get excited again. However, they did not know the deeper meaning of Lin Feng's words. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source was not just dead in this life, but had been dead for all lives. Even his perfected spirit had been annihilated. If anyone in the chaos knew, they would definitely be greatly shocked. Although there were many perfected lords who had fallen in chaos, there was actually not a single one whose perfected spirit was truly annihilated. Often, powerful perfected lords who claimed to have methods to annihilate perfected spirits would still find it extremely difficult to annihilate them. Without anyone's knowledge, Lin Feng had casually annihilated the perfected spirit of a perfected lord. 3,000 universe demons. Follow my orders and protect the Lin family. It's time to deal with those chaotic merchants once and for all. Since Lin Feng had already grasped the method to annihilate the perfected spirit, he no longer had to wait for those chaotic merchants to come looking for him. He wanted to go personally and completely deal with those chaotic merchants. A debt of blood must be repaid in blood. Even if they were perfected lords, they had to be obliterated for eternity. Crack. The vice president of the Infinity Chamber of Commerce suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, a life token had completely shattered. It was almost impossible for the life token to be shattered. This contained the imprint of the perfected spirit. Unless the perfected spirit was annihilated, even if a perfected lord died, the life token would not crack. But how could the perfected spirit be annihilated? Impossible, impossible. How could the perfected spirit be annihilated? That means falling for all lifetimes. It means falling completely. There won't be any trace of him in the world from now on. The vice president had never been in such a state of panic. Back when he was roaming the chaos, he had encountered countless crises and turned misfortunes into blessings every time. He had never lost his composure like now. This life token was the life token of perfected Lord Nonopal Source. In the Infinity Chamber of Commerce, only perfected lords had life tokens. This was because only perfected lords had perfected spirits, and could leave a perfected spirit imprint in their life tokens. The shattering of the life token meant the death of a perfected lord and the annihilation of their perfected spirit. This was a huge matter, and it terrified the vice president even more than the death of a perfected lord. This was because the annihilation of a perfected spirit meant complete death for all lifetimes. The law of a perfected lord's immortality would also be broken, and the greatest reliance of a perfected lord would be gone. Who is it? Who exactly is it? The vice president panicked. On careful thought, hadn't perfected Lord Nonopal Source led 8 chaotic perfected persons to capture the transcendent of the origin universe? The transcendent. Could it be that transcendent? The vice president forced himself to calm down. In this origin universe, only that mysterious transcendent could cause perfected Lord Nonopal Source to fall and annihilate his perfected spirit at that. He had long heard that transcendents were all very miraculous. They were either top-notch perfected deities or had ultimate techniques. From the looks of it, that was indeed the case. No, I have to inform His Majesty the perfected deity immediately. This matter was too important. The vice president could no longer make the decision on his own. Buzz. An image appeared in front of the vice president. Your Majesty, I have an important matter to report. Aren't you in that origin universe? What's the matter? Your Majesty. Something has gone wrong in the origin universe. The transcendent of the origin universe has already returned. Perfected Lord Nonopal Source was ordered to capture him. But his life token has been shattered. He's probably doomed. It's very likely that the other party is a powerful entity who has grasped a secret technique to annihilate the perfected spirit. What? He has grasped a secret technique to annihilate the perfected spirit? Good, very good. I will personally descend and capture him alive. Even perfected deities might not possess the secret technique to annihilate the perfected spirit. A sharp glint flashed across perfected deity Infinity's eyes. He was also very excited. As for the death of perfected Lord Nonopal Source, he did not care at all. He was just an ordinary perfected lord. As long as he, perfected deity Infinity, made the request, there was no knowing how many perfected lords would be willing to join the Infinity Chamber of Commerce. What was really important was the secret technique to annihilate perfected spirits. Once one mastered such a secret technique, it would be the ace in the hole, the trump card. It could even deter many perfected deities, allowing perfected deity Infinity to become one of the most daunting perfected deities in one leap. The vice president was overjoyed. How could he not be overjoyed that a perfected deity was personally descending? Greetings, Your Majesty the perfected deity. Then the scene disappeared. Perfected deity Infinity was already beginning to warp space and descend outside the origin universe. Good. You've done very well. Since you got perfected deity Infinity to come, it appears that allowing you to live for a while longer was not in vain. Just as the vice president was feeling excited and thinking about how to welcome perfected deity Infinity, an unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in his ear. It was like a bucket of cold water, instantly extinguishing the excitement in the vice president's heart. Swoosh! At some point, spatial ripples appeared in front of the vice president. A figure took a step out of the spatial passage and looked down at the vice president. Who are you? The vice president's expression changed drastically. Weren't you reporting to perfected deity Infinity about me just now? Lin Feng gave a half-smile. He was about to kill the vice president and the others directly, but he happened to see the vice president reporting to perfected deity Infinity. The instigator was perfected deity Infinity. Lin Feng naturally would not let perfected deity Infinity off. He even wanted to slay a god again. Moreover, unlike the previous 2 times, he wanted to completely annihilate the perfected spirit of perfected deity Infinity and truly slay a god. Lin Feng would not let any of these chaotic merchants who had invaded the origin universe off, even if they were perfected deities. This was because this was the Achilles heel in Lin Feng's heart, an inviolable Achilles heel. Anyone who touched it would die. If perfected deity Infinity was hiding in the holy cities of chaos, there was really nothing Lin Feng could do. After all, fighting was absolutely not allowed in the holy cities of chaos. Forget about Lin Feng, even a top-notch perfected deity would not dare to fight in the holy cities of chaos. However, now that perfected deity Infinity wanted to personally descend into the origin universe, that would naturally be for the best. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You're a transcendent. The vice president's expression changed indeterminately, and he was incomparably surprised. Do you know that once His Majesty the perfected deity descends, you and your origin universe will be completely annihilated? Now, you'd better cooperate and hand over the secret technique to annihilate the perfected spirit. Perhaps then, His Majesty the perfected deity can spare your life. At the thought that perfected deity Infinity was about to descend, the vice president also felt more confident. No matter how strong the transcendent in front of him was, so what if he was a top-notch perfected lord? Could he contend with a perfected deity? All below the level of perfected deities were insignificant. Ignorant. I happen to be waiting for perfected deity Infinity. I don't mind slaying a god for the 3rd time. Haha. Slaying a god for the 3rd time? Who do you think you are? That invincible perfected lord from the holy city Prima Mobile? Lin? The vice president threw his head back and laughed aloud, as if he had heard the greatest joke in the world. However, his laughter suddenly stopped. He looked as if he had seen a ghost, and his entire body was even trembling. He suddenly recalled a piece of earth-shattering news that had been circulating in the 7 holy cities recently. An invincible perfected lord had killed a perfected deity as a perfected lord. Moreover, he had killed a perfected deity twice, accomplishing the feat of slaying a god. Wasn't that perfected lord a transcendent? Hearing Lin Feng mention slaying a god now, the vice president's heart skipped a beat. He immediately had an ominous feeling. You're that transcendent, the invincible perfected lord who had killed perfected deities above his level, Lin Feng. Seeing Lin Feng's half-smile, the vice president felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Even an exalted perfected lord like him could not help but tremble violently in fear.